And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking about if the Washington Commanders should go out and draft a cornerback in this upcoming NFL draft. We're going to be looking at a couple prospects that we've talked about, but we're also going to be looking at a new prospect that I really think has the highest really upside in this upcoming NFL draft. And I think the real question now would be, would the Washington Commanders take a chance with the upside if he is available in this upcoming draft? And so before we go ahead and jump into the content for today, I first wanted to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin for a lot of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but Washington Commanders content here on a day-to-day basis. And so make sure you hit that like, hit the subscribe, become a part of the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And so we are looking at if the Washington Commanders should go out and draft a cornerback in this upcoming draft. And so let me say this. I wouldn't be mad if the Washington Commanders go out and they start off getting a cornerback in the first part of the draft. And so if they use a first round selection on a cornerback, so be it. Personally, I would like to see the team go out, maybe address the edge. And so go out and get an edge rusher or go out and get a defensive tackle. I think that that's probably where my priority would be if you're looking at the defensive side of the ball. Now, however, if they are going to go out and get a cornerback, we're not necessarily looking at just the first round. I think that there are several players that can be had that can definitely help the Washington Commanders, and really they could be some real steals in this draft. I think that that is, one of the keys that I want to throw out there is that this draft class, I think defensively, you could maybe get a steal in the draft, and it doesn't have to be on day one or day two. I think that there's going to be some exceptional players here. So let's start at the cornerback position, looking at some players that we've talked about here. And let's start off with a player that I think has got just a lot of buzz, really, especially since the NFL Combine here, and that is Maxwell Hairston. I think that he has been really he has a lot of buzz around him because of what he was able to do in the Combine. Look, he went from a 4.3 in his first attempt up to a 4.28. That is just phenomenal speed. And then he also had 89 tackles. I believe the NFL draft or NFL Network, they compared him as a comp to a Denzel Ward. So you can see that a little bit here. And so with him, the one thing that I like about him is just that he might be maybe one of the better ball hawking corners, I think, in this upcoming draft. To me, I think personally, he's a guy that he could maybe be a real turnover machine. I think that he's going to be the type of guy that he is going to look to try to get the football away, not just pass deflect. And so I like that with a defensive player that's going to be aggressive like that. And I think another thing too with him that you see on his tape and why I would love to see him with the Washington Commanders is he's terrific as far as just, I think, play recognition. I think that there was one particular play where he's able to just bait the quarterback into a throw, and it was just a simple kind of check down through the zones kind of deal that I liked. It was almost like he got them in a disguised trap zone or whatever the case may be. And so you like that about him. He can really bait you into throws, and he knows what you're trying to do offensively. And so those are definitely the pluses with him and why I would certainly like to see the Washington Commanders take him. And so the next player that I would like the Washington Commanders to take as well, and this is a player that I believe we talked about this before, scheduled to or do a visit here with the Washington Commanders. And look, that is Quincy Riley here out of Louisville. And so this is what I love about him, because he can be really a contributor from day one on the special teams front, because he's shown that he can be a punt returner. I've talked about this before, that he also could be a kick returner as well. And so that suggests to me that if he's not ready to be a defensive contributor, at least full-time starter, so to speak, he can help your football team. And so that's number one. He checks the box there for me there. Next up, his ability to force turnovers. This is the type of guy that sometimes you look at the tape and you were like, man, was he the wide receiver? That's how good he is when it comes to just understanding, what offenses were wanting to do, and just being a guy that he's also a player that is just a ball hawker. He could take it away from the opposing offense. And then also too, look, I think that he is terrific as well as maybe coming up and giving you some run support. I think between Maxwell Hairston, and then also too with Quincy Riley, I think that both of these players are players that I'm not necessarily worried about when it comes down to run support. And that's huge too, because we know that is what we really struggled with last season was a run support. And so you're definitely going to need to be able to tackle if you're going to play in our secondary. You have to come up. You got to be willing to hit. And I think that both of these players are willing to come up and make noise in the run game. And so that is a plus for me. But next, I would say this. Look, if we're not going to use, I'd say, a top pick on a cornerback, and just talking about just going back to that point of just this being a deep draft, here's a player that I like him for the upside. And I'd wonder what the Washington Commanders would do in this situation if he is available. And I must say that, man, in the tape that I watched, I was very impressed with him. And if it were not for an injury, I think that he would probably be a top pick in this upcoming draft here. And that is Shavon Revel Jr. And so this is, man, he is quite a player out of East Carolina. And man, I tell you what, I was thoroughly impressed with his tape. And let's just talk about number one, just with the nastiness that he plays with. And I mean that in the sense that when you're just looking at him coming up in run support, I was very impressed with his ability to come up, square up, and just punish a ball carrier. That's number one. So I like the fact that he plays with an attitude when he comes up to support the run. Next, in kind of piggybacking off of that, I love what he's able to do as far as being a corner blitzer. I think that if you put him into some of these exotic schemes, you put him close to the line of scrimmage, which I think he would excel at. I think he's a player that he's going to get home, or because of his size, I think he's going to make it tough for quarterbacks to really throw over him as well, because he's 6'3", 193. And so he's a taller cornerback. And man, when you talk about the length, you can definitely see that on his tape. And so I love that about him. Next, here's another thing that you've really got to like is his physicality. And so this goes into just really that nastiness that he plays with. I think that opposing wide receivers that line up against him, they are going to just wish they did not, because I mean, this guy is very physical at the line of scrimmage. I think he could really excel at that man coverage. And so I think that the fact that he can play man coverage, and I think also too, he's shown the potential to be a pretty good zone player as well. You could get a guy that could literally be, a CB1 for you at some point in time. Now, here's the thing with him. With his length and his size, he's terrific with using that for contested football. So I think that it's like if you're playing basketball, you're trying to get it into the post. He is terrific at just deflecting the football. He's going to be there for you as far as jump balls and contested balls. In fact, he measured with an 11-foot broad jump. That's what I was reading here on the NFL Draft Buzz profile. And he also ran a 4.4 in their camp as well. So this guy can run too. He's got a natural feel for the game, like just understanding where to be and just when to go and jump routes and things like that. And so that's another thing that you love about him. And the way that he sheds blocks, it actually reminds me of Jonathan Jones, a player that we just picked up from New England. And so that was another plus for me looking at the tape. Now, here's the deal and why it would be maybe a gamble for the Washington Commanders, because he actually tore his ACL. He tore it in September, and it's been unfortunate because here's a young man. He played JUCO, and from what I'm reading about him, this is a guy that worked in a warehouse, and then he would go, and I guess he continued on his dream. He worked a graveyard shift in Amazon, it says here, and this is on his NFL Draft Buzz profile. So the work ethic is something that really stands out. And that is something that you would definitely love to have in the building with the Washington Commanders, is that work ethic. And so here's a guy that worked graveyard, and then he also kept his football dream alive. So that is a plus. And then I guess here in 2023, just looking at his statistics, look, he had about 54 tackles, 12 pass breakups as well. So he flashed a ton there. He also did it in the special teams game. He had two kicks that he blocked, field goal blocks. And so that was key. So you can put him in on special teams as well if he's not ready from day one. So here's the issue with the torn ACL. He's probably going to miss some time. And that's the thing. It's probably going to be a little bit of a red shirt season, so to speak, in the NFL. And so I'm not sure he's going to be necessarily ready to start. And then also, too, just you wonder, okay, will he be able to kind of get back to the level that he was at? Because I will tell you, he definitely looks like a natural. He looks like he could be a special team contributor. And he also, like I said, with that nastiness, man, I think that you can put him in multiple different situations. Like I think that you can put him close to the line of scrimmage and he's going to make some plays for you, either in run support or like, he could literally be like it's almost like a hybrid kind of linebacker for you with the way that he's able to play and cover. And so I like that about him. And I just think that if the Washington Commanders wanted to wait until later in the draft, take a chance with a cornerback that, pretty much is going to be a little bit of a red shirt, I definitely like him. And I think the upside here is that if you get him, he gets healthy, he could be a CB1 in a hurry. And that is something that I think the Washington Commanders certainly would welcome is a CB1. Now, here's another thing. I went through the NFL.com and looked at his player comparison there, and they compare him to Benjamin St-Juste. And so, look, I think that right now, just off what I saw in the game tape, I think he's better than St-Juste, and I think that he has more potential than him as well. So anyway, let me know in the comments here, do you think that the Washington Commanders would take a chance on potential with Shavon Revel Jr. here, who, again, he was slated to be a top pick until he tore the ACL. Definitely encourage you go and take a look at his game tape here. Or do you think that, look, the Washington Commanders would go with a player that, look, he's definitely got a lot of draft buzz around him in Hairston here? Or do you think that, yes, they would go with Quincy Riley, a player that they are scheduled to meet with, I believe, here? And so let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you in the next one. All right, peace.